This graph I'm going to show you guys is the national debt clock. This is usdebtclock.org. So you can literally go to this page and you can look at the U.S. government debt in real time. So if you look at this debt clock, you'll see here, up here in the upper left-hand corner is the U.S. national debt. That's 31,719,395,520. See, I can't even keep up with the thousands because the debt is going up probably about $10,000 a second. I'm going to guess that our U.S. government debt is going up by $10,000 per second. That is $94,762 per citizen, $247,766 per taxpayer. Now, the deficit, which is different from the debt is the total of what you owe. The deficit is the shortfall of this year. The deficit, $1.4 trillion. It's crazy. And then there's another graph, another stat that just always freaks me out. I hope I can find it. I don't know if I can find it here because it's not on the mobile app. But there is a debt to GDP ratio, which is kind of debt. Here we go. I found it. Yeah, it's right here at the very top. I want you to look at this right here where my cursor is. Can you all see this? Give me a yes if you can see where my cursor is at the very top. Do you see where it says 52.95%? And that's a federal debt to GDP. That's almost like when you go buy a house and they ask you, or they calculate your loan to income ratio or your debt to income ratio, right? That's what that is. It's kind of like a debt to income ratio. Well, if you look at this, in 1960, the debt to income ratio or debt to GDP in the US was 52.95%. In the 1980s, we actually got a little more efficient. It dropped to 34.57%. In 2000, it went up a little bit to 58.14% before 9/11, before the Iraq war, before COVID, before the financial crisis of 2007. Now look at that number. Do y'all see that? Give me a yes if you see that on the chart. Look at how big that number is. 120%. That's debt to GDP, debt to income, 120%. So effective, it's not even real income. I mean, if you look at debt to tax revenue, it's insanely, the ratio is much, much higher. Right? The debt to tax revenue, I think our total tax revenue, let me see. Our total tax revenue, this is now, just to give you some comparison, our total tax revenue is $4.6 trillion a year. The total debt is $31 trillion. So what does that mean? How do you compare this? How would you process this as a regular person? Well, that's like a person who makes $46,000 a year, who is $310,000 in debt. If your friend came up and told you that I make $46,000 a year, but I'm $310,000 in the hole. I got $310,000 in my credit card debt. I got $310,000 in my mortgage. That also includes my student loans. Would you consider that person to be in a good financial situation or a bad one? What would you say? You think that's good or bad? You think they're healthy, they're doing well, they're making smart choices? Or would you say, dude, you've got to change something? What would you say to that person? See, so this is what your government's doing. And this is what bothers me. This is why I act like a weirdo when I talk about this. It's because it makes me mad. You know, I'm a financial guy. That's my background, my PhD. That's what my doctorate's in, is in finance. And there's no planet on which those sorts of ratios make any good economic sense. The only reason the federal government feels like it's okay to do this is because they get to print the money. The money's denominated in dollars. They get to print their own dollars. The countries that are in debt to the United States can't print dollars, so they're stuck. But anybody heard of BRICS?